in transmission.
Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas!
Welcome, Watchers of Illusion, to my Castle of Confusion on the 20th of December, and in 5 days it'll all be over, or at least you guys will be vegging on the couch after your big Christmas dinner, I imagine. I thought I'd keep the theme this week and do the James Pond trilogy, so here we are with the second in the series, RoboCod, which is a play on words for RoboCop, if you didn't already know. I'm very surprised I didn't do the Codfather as well. That could have been a good one for James Pond 3 instead of Operation Starfish, but there we go. Yeah, Penguin had a bit of a franchise going on here. I'm not sure why, but never mind. So anyway, James Pond 2, codename RoboCod, on the Amiga. Actually, not a bad game, if I remember correctly. So let's get stuck in. So there we have our main character. Not much. Well, I suppose he's put on a little bit of weight, I think, since the last game. Oh, you can see how fast this goes. It's pretty cool, actually. It's a bit Sonic-esque, or a bit Zool-esque, the speed at which you can go. The idea is to rescue the penguins in the level, and then you can reach the exit, which is pretty bog standard. You can see in the bottom left-hand corner there, you've got your lives count and your energy meter. Oh, little freeze there. The green bars are your energy, and the fingers held up are your lives that you have left. And in the top right hand corner you can see the score in which you have you accumulate by picking up fruits and other bonus objects as well. Very standard affair here for the platformer, but it's all good fun. It's a lot better than James Pond 1, by the way. I know some of you probably have very fond memories of James Pond 1, but as you guys saw yesterday, and it's each to your own. I mean, at the end of the day, there's some of you that are going to love it, but there's going to be people that really don't. And maybe people that have these, these blinkers on when it comes to retro games that they all loved when they were little, and then I come along and poo-poo them. But, it is my opinion, and I am allowed it. So there, just as you are allowed yours. So there we go. But this is a much better entry into the James Pond franchise, I have to say. It's much more fluent. The controls are a lot better. Talking of controls, let's tell you what they are. So it's your left and your right. Duck will, down will put you into sort of a duck situation inside your armor, which is quite fun. Fire button. Actually, this is when you push the fire button, you extend your torso like so. Now the funny thing is, if you're outside and there's nothing to grab hold of, you will just infinitely grow taller and taller and taller, which is bizarre, quite honestly. Not sure what the thought process was behind that, but it's not a downside. Oh yes, things will damage you as well, so you've got to be careful which items you pick up. But yeah, the torso will extend. I love the little animation there where he's bopping along to the theme tune, which you will get most accustomed to, by the way. The sound in the game is much better than in the original James Pond game, so that's always nice to see. And the music is actually good. Sound effects are much better than the original James Pond game as well, but then you'd expect it. Now this apparently is an AGA version of the game. I'm playing it on my Amiga 1200 hard drive, so it from WHD Load, by the way. If you haven't got that program, I would suggest you invest in it. Actually, it's free now, I think, WHD Load, which means you can put lots of disc games onto your hard drive. Now, these days you can get the nice zippy fast memory cards and plug them into your Amiga 1200, 600, and I think 500s as well, which will enable you to have a nice fast massive drive. I think mine's a 4GB drive, and it's just full of games. And with massive amount of space to spare. You can see as well there's a very close similarity to the Mario games with these blocks that you have to hit, which is cool. You can see there the way you land on enemies, you just jump on their heads. Simple. Some enemies take more hits than others, and you can actually sort of get yourself into that steel cannonball state. You don't want to touch those, and you can do a lot more damage. Now the stars replenish your health, so you need to try and pick up stars as often as you can. I'm not sure what the bell does, but there's a lot of the stuff is just for bonus points. Oh, this is just... and there's a random bus for absolutely no reason, and why not? So yes, if I jump on his head normally, then it takes a couple of jumps, but I can also go into sort of cannonball mode and then kill him with one shot. I keep forgetting here that I can actually just extend his body. It's very simple. It's very easy to forget that you can do that. You'll probably find yourself jumping around trying to pick up loot, but no, honestly, all you have to do is this: zoom and grab. And I'm not sure what that does either. There's a lot of objects you pick up in the game which really don't sort of give you an idea of what they do or what they're for, but there you go. You get these nice little pickups here, like these angel wings, which enable you to fly to the top of the screen or to inaccessible places, and then there's the final penguin for that level. You do get level bosses as well, which is quite nice. So at the end of each, I think it's like every 4 levels that you do, you'll encounter a boss. Some levels are a little infuriating, and yeah, I'm probably not going to do very well on this level. Oh, nope. Now, the Mega Drive version of this was interesting because the enemies had a really ridiculous hitbox. I think the collision detection on it was a bit ropey as well, but the Amiga version doesn't seem to suffer from that, which is odd, because I would have thought that the Mega Drive would have been able to port the Amiga version over quite successfully. But no, as it happens, it didn't. And the only problem I would say with this game, realistically, is the music is probably going to get right on your wick after a while. But, you know, I'm not sure if you can turn it off or not, but if you can, I would recommend doing it, or turn the sound off completely and just put on a CD or listen to some MP3s or something in the background, because this is going to grate your gears, as it does mine a little bit. But, you know, at least it's got a soundtrack, I suppose, would be a positive. And the sound effects are, like I said, pretty good. The controls are quite tight, actually. You don't tend to find yourself making too many errors. He says, piling himself into a big pit of spikes. But you don't tend to find that you're overshooting things quite as often as you did in the original James Pond. That's quite fun, because you can see in the bottom left there, he's got 1 life left and his face has changed. This is also carried over from the original James Pond game, where his face would turn into a more stern, telling you off kind of face, because you're losing all of those precious lives. Now, you do get continues in this game. I believe there's 2 or 3 continues, so don't be too disheartened if you don't make it on the first try. You can use those continues and carry on from where you left off. There are restart points as well, which are actually very, very good and much needed in some of the bigger levels. In fact, I think there's one in this level, if I remember rightly. It's been a long time since I've played this game, but I'm pretty sure there's a restart point somewhere in this level. And trust me, you will be breathing a sigh of relief every time you come across one. I like the fact that you're using things like playing cards as lifts here. Oh, game over. Whoops. It's quite nice. The level designs are actually fairly good. So you get 2 continues left. You have 5 seconds to comply. Nice direct quote from Ed209 from RoboCod there, which is quite cool. So you always start off with your, I think it's 3 lives, and you got 3 extra lives on top of the one that you're using when you first log in. So that's good. But you can see the level design is actually pretty nice. There's not too much, to be fair, to gripe about in this game. It's certainly an improvement over the original one. There's much more to do, and the fact that you can extend your torso is just comedy. And I love this little bopping animation that he's got. Yes. So there we go. I suppose negatives would be that sometimes there isn't really no obvious path, and sometimes when you're up high in the screen you can't see what's below you. So if you're hanging off a wall trying to find out where to go next, you do kind of find that you'll just drop down randomly because you can't see where you're going, and you'll plummet into a big pile of spikes. Again, that's not very obvious that that's a pit. Even though the cards are turned the other way around, it's not obvious that that is a trap. It's a trap! So, again, only a small negative, really. It's more nitpicking than anything else, to be fair. This one is definitely better than the Mega Drive version, but there we go. I love the fact his body actually retracts up to meet his the top of his body as well. I think that's quite cool. So when you let go, he will either descend or ascend, whichever way he wants to go up. But it's good fun. Snowman, 2,000 points. There's a lot of enemies in the game as well. The variation of enemies is quite nice. The animations on them is absolutely glorious as well. So there's a lot of positives in the game. There's not so many negatives. Probably the music looping. Some of the level design can be a bit frustrating. So I'd probably say this, it's suitable for most age groups. So it's more designed for the younger player, I would say. But if you're an experienced player, you're probably going to enjoy this all the same. If you like your platforming games, you're going to get into this game and probably enjoy it quite a lot. There's a lot of nods to all different sorts of games as well, and films, which is great, especially the RoboCop series. I'd buy that for $1, which unfortunately is not in the game, but that's a little oversight. But you can see where the exit is there, then you'd have to find your way around the level and blah blah blah. So it's pretty straightforward affair of find the penguins, get to the exit, and move on. And you will get a variety of stages as well. And there's different doors you can go into, and your stages will depend on what door you go through. So, altogether, a pretty well put together outing for Mr. Pond here. Although I think Operation Starfish was my favourite of the three, which I will be reviewing hopefully Friday. Because then I'll be the last review before Christmas, folks. And then I should be back next week at some point, hopefully Monday. That won't be Monday because it's Christmas Day. I will be back next week with some reviews, probably Tuesday onwards, and hopefully you will all have digested your food, had a wonderful Christmas, and all that jazz. So realistically, that leaves me with just one thing left to say, or two things actually. One is thank you for supporting the channel. I don't have monetization on my channel, so it's all done for free. So thank you very much for supporting that anyway. And I hope you guys have an absolutely smashing retro Christmas, and I will catch you very soon. Merry Christmas, everyone!